Oh, we're live. Excellent. Alright. Alright, today is the first live stream. And I have plans. Open this up and we can write our plans. 1. Work on the resonator synth. And then try and sing good. And maybe use the resonator synth to create a cover of Wish You Well. Alright. So don't need drums yet. Here's the resonator synth that I made. Alright. Excuse me, I just logged on to stream and I started getting all snotty for some reason. My resolution is messed up. Close the chat. You need to change the video resolution. How do I do that? Okay, hopefully that fixed it. But yeah, so I made this synth with resonators, and it's got polyphony. Maybe this down. Something like that, maybe. Okay. Maybe what we can add potentially pitch envelope, so we can really emphasize the percussive plucky sounds by making it start high and go low. Someone said we should add bit crushing, and if we're adding bit crushing, we might as well add sample rate reduction for like retro effects, and maybe maybe toggle resonators to be fixed or follow the fundamental, so we can get really weird sounds like that. And maybe before that, or at some point, probably around the same stage that we do that, like compression. Dynamics, more dynamics, control, make tails louder or die off faster, and maybe another thing. Fuck, I just thought of it and then I forgot about it. Pitch, envelope, bit, crushing, compression, dynamics. Oh, panning. Panning control for resonators slash randomization spray, maybe a spray control that can, each time it hits, it randomly pans each signal around. Okay, so this is our patch, and it's just handling, it's basically just MIDI in, and then it sends our controls from Ableton from our little VST, which is this view here. All these controls here just get packed into lists and then get sent into this poly object, which poly loads a subpatcher, and then we've got 16 instances of that, of this resonator synth voice subpatch, that each becomes a different voice on the synth. So if we want to change the workings of the voices themselves, we have to go open resonator synth voice and then edit it in here. So the first thing that I think would be easiest to tackle would be panning. Okay. Loki, like last night, I did just add all these guides, so if anyone downloads this in the future, they can sort of work out what I was going for. Alright, so all the panning is going to happen in this mc.mixdown. So mc.mixdown takes these multi-channel signals, which should be 4. I don't know why that's saying 1. Maybe that, yeah, okay. Maybe that'll do it. So now there are 4 channels, and then this will mix down. It's mixing down into 1 and then getting unpacked, but obviously 1 channel is going to be mono, so if we just make this 2, then it's going to be 2 here, and then if we go mc.unpack 2, then there's going to be the output 2. We're gonna, I guess, sum these together to go into this bit, which basically just listens out to itself and hears when it's quiet enough with this threshold object. It just listens, and when it's below 0.1, I guess, whatever, 0.1 dB or whatever, when it's below a certain volume, it tells the big poly patch to that the voice isn't busy anymore, so you can it tells the big poly that this voice is not busy anymore, so if you get more MIDI notes in, you can send them my way and I'll be able to handle it. Is basically what this whole section here is for. Alright, and we've got a second one, so I think we need a second out. Does this have to be... yeah. So this will be out 1 and out 2. At comment. Always put comments and say left output. And this is the right output. Okay. The challenge, of course, is always how do we make things look somewhat neat? And I would guess, like, this is probably the best we're gonna get. Alright. Now we need to send a list. We need to send a list that's like 0.5 that has 3 4. It has 4 values in it, which basically tell this mixdown how to pan each signal around. I think also we might need to at pan. I think we don't want linear pan mode because that's not like true panning. If you know about pan law, it doesn't sound like a real circle or whatever. So we then need to create in 5 at attribute comment. We need to call this pan values list. Alright. So now, if we reload this, save this voice, reload this, then we've got an extra input here, which is our pan values as a list. Okay. So, we need to basically do a similar thing here and create a list of 4 values that will go into here, and that will tell our each individual voice how to pan the resonators around. So hopefully we can get like cool 3-dimensional percussion that sounds kind of weird but also kind of organic. So what we first, I guess, is start with this pack. So pack just outputs a list when any item in the list changes, and you need to initialize it with 4 values to tell it that it's expecting 4 inputs. If we delete one of these inputs will go away. So if we put 4, we got 4 inputs, and then we're gonna make some knobs later and put them here. And then I've put 0.5 in each of these, and those will be the initial values. So when you initially load up the synth into your live set or whatever, it will start with each voice being directly center, because it would be really just uncomfortable to load in a synth and then have everything be only in the left channel or the right channel. Also, real quick, since we have an extra output now, we need to put this into here, because this will be channel 2 of the audio. Okay, beautiful. So if we... and it's like, as always, trying to make things like also look good. This can go up here. I really shouldn't have put all these tooltips. Honestly, maybe I'll delete the tooltips and you can figure this shit out on your own. Alright, so we're going to use these live.dial. Live.dial is cool because it's already like sort of, well, first of all, it's the classic like Ableton GUI element. And it's also cool because it comes like sort of pre-scripted or whatever so that it'll work with Ableton, so you can do automation and mapping, things like that. So we need to like name it though. So scripting name, I guess this is pan1, the long name, pan value, or pan, or resonator 1 pan, I guess, and short name pan1. Cool. And we can do this pan2, resonator pan2, or resonator 2 pan. Here's the third one. Oh, by the way, when I'm to copy and paste, I'm just holding command. I think it's command. Hold on. No, it's option. If you hold option, you click and drag while holding option, it will create a duplicate of your thing, which is really, really useful in Macs. Cool. Then we want to take our 0 to 1 value, because that's our MC.mixdown in this little patch is expecting values between 0 and 1. What we also want to do is do unit style float and make it I should have done that before. Unit style float, we're going to change the range to 0 to 1. So the difference between float and int is int stands for integer, which is only whole numbers, whereas float is a floating point number, so it's decimals, and that's basically it. Cool. So then we need to right click on these, click add to presentation. Now they'll show up here, and if we drag them within the bounds of this box, they will show up in our device when we open it in Ableton. Cool, let's give that a shot. Let's give it a test. I'm gonna turn all these off. Well, for one thing, I've got my headphones on backwards, which I just heard because you can see in the left channel is far louder here, and I'm only hearing it in my right headphone, so flip these around before we move on. And as you can see, playing with this pan isn't really doing anything, so let's try and get to the bottom of this. Edit in Max. Why are we not working? This is where Max gets fun. Let's open mc.mixdown help, because I need some help. By default, mc.mixdown cycles input channels to successive outputs, input 1 to output 1. For a way to spread, see the static panning tab. Okay. Pack. Like, this is what we have, right? Pans, okay. So we need to send it a message, is what I did wrong. It doesn't expect a list. It expects a list that is prepended by the message pans. So we're now saying, instead of just sending it a list, it doesn't know what to do, which I assume, yeah, that's what all these errors are. Whoa, it doesn't understand list. Okay, my bad, yo. My bad, Mr. MC.mixdown. Let's route this so it looks a bit neater. Now, it should just work. Yo. Except it's not working how I would expect it. Another thing real quick before I forget is we want these to be initialized to 0.5 so that when you open it up, everything is centered and it's like everything is panned center, and also these GUI elements match that, because we've initialized 0.5 here, but you won't see that in a GUI perspective, so it's a bit jarring. We want to like make it better like that. So there should be an initial enable initial value 0.5. Right here, 0.5. And then we will check out what the deal is with the pan. Not the reference. You need the help. Okay. Static panning. For efficient panning of input to fixed locations that use the pan's attribute, the attribute values specify the panning location for you within the output channel. Is normalized circular panning, which is what we want, right? Okay. I think I can hear what's happening. So this is center. Here is left. And then around here is right. And then here is center again. But I just want it to be 0 is left and 1 is right. So yeah. 0.5 is in the front middle, and 0 and 1 are in the rear middle. All speakers are evenly spaced around the circle based on the number of output channels. Oh, what are you talking about, man? 2-channel output case. So this is channel 1, this is channel 2. 0 and 1 are center, and 0.5 are center. 0.25 will be full left, and 0.75 will be full right. But we want linear panning, I guess. Yeah, so at pan control mode 1 is what we need to do. At pan control mode 1. Okay. Now, we will need to... Oh, that was terrible news. We need to reinitialize this by sort of loading it up again. Yep. Okay. Yep. Alright, so that's full left. That's full right. Beautiful. That's awesome. Okay. Finally, we want to add an extra knob here that is like spray or random pan. I guess spray is technically not the correct term because spray is like granular, a term used in granular synthesis for something else. But who knows? Live.dial. Yep. And then let's just set up. I always like to start with like GUI first when I can. Because it's, I don't know, it's hard once you made all the features to then design the GUI, but when you design the GUI, then you know what features you need to add and you work backwards from there. Sure. One thing that I don't know is kind of strange for me is like I can't figure out good names for my controls a lot of the time. Like these are like, they must be too long. I just need to go and look at like the Ableton devices and see what they do. Okay. So we're gonna need to go back into our synth voice patch, and then how are we gonna do random? Can we do mc.random? But that's volume. That's audio rate random. No. We need... Okay. So what needs to happen to add random panning is when this bang happens, which is the bang that triggers the voice to start to play a note, basically. It should bang a random to generate a number between 0 and 1, and then there should be a scale 0, 1, from 0 to 1, between 0 and 1, but then this high output value should be, I guess, I don't think we need scale. Yeah, we can just do range. So use another message, range $1. So then we put our in6 at patch comment random pan, and then float, so that we know that we need to just give a simple float, and this goes into here. So then it will come in a float between 0 and 1. It will come into here. I guess we can do. That's probably better. A number between 0 and 1 will come into here. Tell the random number, random object, what range to put, and then we need to do, I guess, MC dot rand dot plus. However, we don't want it to just be positive, because if we just add positive, then the randomness will only go in one direction. It will only make it go more right. We want it to be random right or left. So we need to make it negative somehow. So I think the easiest way to do that would be to MC dot minus 0.5, right? And then it can get a negative value. Yep. So the reason we're doing MC is so that we can get multiple channels of random. So we need to go Uzi 4, which Uzi will just... Is that the best way to do it? I don't know if what's the best way to do it, but oops, we can just do 4 different randoms. I think we have to seed them differently. Oh, this is also, we're using the wrong random, because this is audio rate random, which is like basically white noise, kinda. We want... Yeah. Okay. We want to... Not audio rate, we want it to just generate a single random number every time we send it a bang, which is this input here. Okay. And then we go, I guess, mc.pack, do 0, 0, 0, 0. Why does that not work? It's not mc.pack, it's just pack, and then mc.list. No, we don't even need a list, because this is... Alright, because this... Alright. This is a list that comes in here. It needs to get added or subtracted by a random number, and then that output goes into here. But it should just be a list. Which I think we need to do something weird. We need to like use list. Sum a list of numbers. No. No. Or, in fact, rather than do it in this one, it might be actually better to just do it outside here, and then we can do our maths outside here before everything gets packed into a list. So, we don't have to fuck around with MC. Can you... Hello? Yo. Alright. So... Plus, and we gotta initialize it as a float, and we gotta make 4 of those. Then we gotta go random 0, 1, and make this. Let's do our float style stuff as well here. 0, 1, and range, unit style float. Okay. Now the goes here. But we can't, because we need to make a random number output per voice when a voice is triggered, which happens inside this. So tricky. So tricky. So I guess we're back to editing our synth voice. Which goes in here, but that's a list. I guess unpack 0, 0, 0, 0. Let's move this out here so we have a bit more space. Then we need in 5, in 6 at hatch, comment, random pan, 0 to 0 to 1. Cool. So that will go somewhere over here. We need to do our maths. Oops. Then we need random 0, 1. And then we just, I think we need to add different seeds. If we use multiple randoms, then I think we need to use different seeds because each seed if no argument, the time value will be used to initialize the seed. We need this, I'm actually doing it wrong because this, we just need one value for the list. Okay, so we'll do a seed of 0.1. Seed can be an int. Let's do 3, oops, 5, 7, and 2, just for fun. And then the range of our, the control value needs to go into our range input. Cool, and then we need to just take this, oh my god, I'm making such a mess. Oops. Is there any way to hide these? I mean, fuck it. Then we need to take each random and subtract 0.5. Cool. Also, we actually need to do these because when you input a number into these math objects, only the left input actually causes the calculation to be performed. So if we put the random into the right number and we don't ever change the values in the left, then our random number is just going into there, but our math numbers, our math objects don't trigger at all, and you just get no, it just doesn't work. All right, cool. Now that that's done, we can pack it all down, initialize with our default values. Let's just make this like that, just cause, whatever. it's not quite straight. That's kind of disappointing, but whatever. Okay, but now we need to reload this, and we've got a magical 6th input. Cool. It's hard to tell if it's actually doing... It's hard to tell if it's actually randomizing anything. This. Turn everything off except for this at full resonance. Put the pan at 0.5. Put the random at 0 first. Okay, what's happening? Okay. Our math is wrong. So what's happening is when our random is set to 0, it's generating a random number between 0 and 0. So it's creating zeros, which then gets subtracted by 0.5. Which means that when our random is 0, it's actually minus 0.5. So if we do this though, then our random is just gonna be between 0 and 1. I think better to use scale to shift our random down. Hold on. This shit is so confusing. Okay, just look at 1 for a second. Generates a random number between 0 and 1. Okay? And our mixdown expects a value between 0 and 1. Assume our pan is at 0.5. If this generates a value of 0, then it won't affect the pan at all. But if this generates a value of 0 here, then it gets scaled between 0 and 1. Basically what this scale is doing is it's doing the same thing that we did before, which is just shifting it down. So 0 becomes negative 0.5, which is what we don't want to happen, because we want our pan control, our random pan, when that knob is 0, to not affect the panning at all, and when that knob is 1, to make the panning random either side each stroke, each strike of the mallet effectively. So how do we best do that? we think about how we want the numbers to act, we want random control of 0 equals outputs only zeros. Random control of 1 equals outputs negative 0.5 to 0.5. The other issue that we have is negative values into mc.mixdown. How do they act? / do we need to fix them so that it wraps around? Because if we say we have our panning set all the way to 0, so that means that without any random, that resonator is always going to be fully left. And then if we turn the random up, but then our random generates a negative number, then 0 minus 0.5, for example, will be negative 0.5, which I think this only expects 0 to 1. So we need to see what can we do about it. But before that, I low-key need a piss. And then I do need to charge my laptop, so I might see what we can do about that. Let's see. Boom. Well, this setup is so janky though. I need an extension cable for sure, but for now, we'll do it. We're charging, baby. Alright, let's press on. I wonder... Okay. This is the real technique of getting good at Max for Live. Random panning mc.mixdown max MSP. And see if anyone else has come up with a solution. This guy is exactly doing the exact same thing that we're trying to do. Sample and hold to sample to decide the panning factor. What do you mean? That's really a better way to do the random panning. There's fucking nothing in there. Bro. These 20-year-old forums, they're not telling me the answers. Freak. Alright. What else? let's click on this. Wait, let's look at the documentation as well, but let's see if the thing will load this time, or if it's just gone. It's just lost forever. That's so unfortunate. Okay, let's look at the documentation. MC.mixdown for the primary tool for mixing multi is the MC.mixdown object. Mixes inputs in a multi-signal and to an output optionally using pan information provided in its right inlet. For dynamic panning, you can use any multi-channel signal for the pan input of the MC.mixdown object. MC.sig with the deviate message. Convert regular numbers into audio signals. What is deviate? Generate a random value for each channel around a center value. An optional number after the center value specifies the upper range size so it can be different from the lower range size. Example, deviate 100 cutoff 1000 will generate random values for the cutoff attribute of the objects in the wrapper centered around 1000 Hz. Deviate the range, so I guess MC.sig deviate $1 0.5. Ooh, true. But we want to that's the range and that's the center number. Okay. So we want to okay. So we want to do deviate. The range is going to be coming from this. Deviate. And then we want the center value to be not 0.5. This is the challenge, is we need to change 0.5 per channel. So this will create four channels that are random around 0.5, but we want this 0.5 to be adjustable manually by our pan values controls in the big patcher. So well, let's do some more digging, see what else. Generate a random value for each channel around a center value. So actually, I think we need to generate 4 random and then do MC dot add multi-channel signal / float. This should be MC.pack MC.list. Okay. So and initialize it. So that's our 4. These are our 4 pan values coming in that are changeable manually. Next, we need our random, which we're generating with these deviate signal, to be added to this. But that's the same, runs into the same issues of we're adding, we could have we could have 1 here and then generate a value of 0.5 and then we end up with 1.5. Unless we think of it in reverse. So if we think of starting from here, when our random is 0, this deviate message will generate 4 values which are all 0.5. And as we change that, our channels will get random numbers between, or around 0.5, between, in the range of whatever this is, around 0.5. Okay. Then we need to apply our offset from our pan values to the random. So if our random number generates a value of 1, and then we add an offset of a positive offset, I think what should happen there that makes the most sense is it should just get clipped to 0.1 because you're trying to make it further right than it is. So if it's, you can't go any more further right than a value of 1. So we should add a clip of minimum 1 and maximum 1. Okay. So this, and it should be MC. Yep. Alright, so this is the last thing that happens before it goes into here. Everything gets clipped. Everything gets clipped to a value of 0.1. Okay. Now this, if we add these together, then really a value of yeah. I'm on the verge, but I just can't explain it. We need our pan values to actually be, pan values should be between negative 0.5 left and 0.5 right. Because when our random is 0, then this is 0.5, and which is center. When random is 0, it defaults to center, and then if we add 0.5 to make it go all the way right, then it should go there. And then changing the random, if the random goes higher, it will be greater than 0.5, which will just get clipped to 1, because 0.5 plus 0.6, for example, would be higher than 1, which gets clipped here just to 1. If it gets lower, if we make this negative and this goes random higher, then it should be, then it will be 0.6, for example, and this could be negative 0.4, which will then sum together and make 0.1, which will be mostly to the left. I believe that this should be correct. Let's reinitialize our synth voice. And then we need to change all these. Okay. So our pan should be negative 0.5 to 0.5. Now, one thing that would be cool in terms of GUI and max matching like Ableton's sort of precedent would be to have it change to C for center when it's in the middle, and then L when it's all the way to the left, and R when it's all the way to the right. I wonder if there's a way to do that. Custom units, maybe, potentially. Okay, let's give this a shot. Alright, everything else is off except for... did I change that? Initial value here should be 0.5. No, initial value should be 0. The range is what's wrong. Well, now it's not panning. Okay, the random is working brilliantly. But if we turn the random down, it's doing nothing. Why? Why? Because this is pans. This needs to be a list. And then we need to, I think if we just send a multi-channel signal, we don't need to prepend it with pans. Okay. Okay, we're so close. The problem is what is the problem? What's the problem? Okay. When this is set to 0. Okay. So when our pan is 0, our random is 0, which should be generating numbers between, which should just be giving us 0.5. So 0.5 plus 0 is 0.5, but it is for some reason panning right. And when this is negative 0.5 and 0.5, that's making 0. Why? Why is it behaving in that way? Hold on. Use mcs.sig to generate a multi-channel signal from a list of values. Can we use deviate with that? let's do this for troubleshooting purposes. Oh, it's a signal. It's a signal, bro. It's a signal, bro. Alright. Now, if we let it ride, wow, you're so loud, bro. Okay, we want this to be 0. Where's my... Okay. Now if we open this, that's a 0. .5 for some reason is more left. For some reason that is unclear to me. Everything else was left, I think. Let's turn this loop off for a sec and just create one that's really more simple, so we can really turn the random up. The random is now not doing anything. Why? Because it's being all clipped. My laptop is still running out of battery, even though I plugged it into charge. So I think I'm gonna have to stop the stream, but I will figure this out. I think deviate is different than what I want it to be, but it's gotta be something to do with this, but it's... yeah. I don't know. Alright. But I'm getting a bit tired of this, but... whoa, why is it so slow? We are definitely closer. Than we were before with these. Yeah, it's getting there. Like, this is even looking a lot more complete, just in terms of appeal, aesthetics. It's got more knobs. I think we can add like a little effects section here with a, what did I say? We're gonna add bit crusher, sample reduction. Sample reduction should be very easy. Bit crushing I haven't really done in Max before, but there's probably a way to do it. And then compression is probably something that's quite tricky. And of course the other thing is, for each of these things that we add, it means we have to go into the sub patcher and then figure out how to do it with the sub patch. But should be right. We'll figure it out. Oh well. I think it's time to end the stream. About an hour. I'll charge my laptop to full next week, and then we can hopefully go for 2-3 hours. All right.